And Sanjay, it's just you and me this week. So let's start with that huge title change on Friday night. Cody Rhodes is our new WWE Champion. Tell me what you think of the match, what you think of Cody being back on top.
So I do like Cody Rhodes, but I just wanted Drew McIntyre to take the belt all the way to WrestleMania. The match itself was actually good. I did enjoy the match. And then Jacob Fatu's wasn't really much of what I thought he would do. I thought he would have created such a fuss that he does lose to Cody Rhodes, but it was kind of like a distraction, and McIntyre was still able to, wrestle the rest of the match. So it's not that he got injured or anything, but I did enjoy the match itself. Cody Rhodes being champion, I did not really want it, but I just hope. I mean, I'd love to see Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton, definitely, but I just thought this WrestleMania was just like a Drew McIntyre, moment to walk in as champion. I just wanted that for Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, it's a shame. We've been so high on Drew for like months at this point. Yeah, we're Drew fans, the three of us. As you did, I enjoyed the match. I don't know whether I can say it over-delivered when they've delivered so much already, but I think because of that, there was kind of some feeling of like, what have they got left in the tank? And I thought they just delivered a really solid, like really good main event. And Jacob getting involved, I think, makes sense. There's still this tiny part of me that's holding out hope for what we've been kind of pitching now for weeks of Jacob getting himself involved in that Mania title picture. Maybe now Drew as well. I think it would have to be a four-way if there's any hope of that. But it certainly seems with the way, the match graphic popped up immediately, Cody versus Randy. Randy was talking at the beginning of the show about being back in the main event. I think they're going for a singles match, and then we'll have to settle for Drew versus Jacob as a singles. I think you kind of hinted there, Sanjay, that Jacob didn't do a lot compared to what we've seen him do in the past. And I think I can't quite tell yet whether I liked that or not. It felt like, as far as interferences go, it was about as simple as it gets, of just yoink, I'm having that chair, you're not going to use it. And then he was gone, I think, wasn't he? He didn't do anything else.
Yeah, he stood there. So it could be like a tease just to piss off Drew McIntyre, just to get under his skin. And then that'll, create such a big rivalry for them with the few weeks that's left, and then a WrestleMania match. Could be, no disqualification match, steel cage match, something barbaric for the two of them, because they're both such beasts, and good match between them would be, needed, I'll say.
Yeah, and Drew's got history of that, hasn't he? He had a big feud with Damian Priest.
Yeah.
I think that was just the most recent WrestleMania, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
I thought that over delivered, considering it didn't have that much behind it. I wonder whether Jacob's motivation, if you like, was making good to Cody, because of course it was Jacob's involvement that you could argue cost Cody the title in the first place.
Yeah.
So was this Jacob sort of squaring that circle and being like, he's not going to apologize, he's Jacob Fatu, he's going to be a beast about it, but somewhere in Jacob's mind it was like, right, I'm going to make this right before I then kick Drew's ass.
Until he finds out that it was Cody Rhodes who attacked him.
Aha, so you're coming round, Sanjay, you're coming round to my way of thinking. I think it might have even been on the very first episode of our podcast that I said, I think it might be Cody. So yeah, I'm still holding out hope that will be the spark that fuels the eventual heel turn. But now we're doing Cody and Randy. I can't quite call it as easily, because I could quite as easily see Randy Orton turning heel on Cody Rhodes. One of them's got to turn. I don't quite see where it's going, but I know you're a big Orton fan, so you must be pretty pumped for a Cody Randy Mania match.
I like the momentum that they have for Randy Orton, especially when he's cutting the promo. He's talking about history made and stuff, and he's still out there where all his peers are kind of looking up to him and saying, you're still doing it. I hope he does, break that tie with Triple H and actually gets the next title done. I don't know if Triple H would like that, but it would.
Well, indeed. I think I agree with you. If you told me a year ago Orton having another world title run, I would probably have said, I think his time at the top of the card is over. And I still feel a little bit weird about him being in the main event of WrestleMania at this stage. I guess there's solace in the fact that, Orton and Cena, at least until Cena's retirement, had these parallel careers where they kind of came through at the same time. They kind of came up into the main event picture at the same time. And we now have consecutive years of Cody versus Cena and then Cody versus Orton. That I take huge solace in the fact that there is no way in hell Cody versus Orton can be anything like as bad as Cody versus Cena was last year. I know that we weren't recording pods back then, but did you hate that match as much as I did?
I just didn't like the way they did the whole John Cena turning heel, having Travis Scott. I didn't like it at all. I just didn't like the way they done it. And then the match would obviously be in that same sort of mindset of you didn't enjoy the whole feed, the whole run, so they're not really going to enjoy the match either.
I remember saying at the time that the big heel turn happened that it was one of the biggest shocking heel turns in history. I think it still holds up as maybe one of the best heel turns, but it was followed by one of the worst heel runs I think I can remember. That whole run was dreadful, and that match with Cody was just slow and turgid and just such an anticlimax for Cena's record-breaking title win. I'm glad we got obviously the babyface run that we did at the end for him. But yeah, Cody versus Orton should be, the lowest that match can be, I think, is still better than what we got last year with Cody and Cena, because these two have such chemistry, and they've been telling this story for, I don't even know how long, a year more. They've been teasing.
2 years. I do remember 2 years of Randy Orton just being next to Cody Rhodes, looking at his title or just saying something, I'm coming after that title after or something. I just remember 2 years. Right. I'm just like, I've given up of it. I was like, I don't think Randy Orton's going to do it. So
they've taken their time, but we seem to be on the verge of title number 15 for Orton. It will be, I think, if he wins.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to see that happen at this point. I think it's interesting that Cody and Orton have actually wrestled not loads this year, but they have met previously. They had a one-on-one match, and I can't for the life of me remember where it was. So was it a King of the Ring? Was it something to do with King of the Ring, maybe? But they had a match months back, and Orton hesitated, was the story of the match. I don't know if you remember.
I remember that, yeah.
He wouldn't pull the trigger on his most vicious kind of voices instinct. And then we saw at Elimination Chamber a kind of moving on of that to where Drew blatantly interfered in front of Randy, Cody with the title. Cody got his pin on Logan Paul, and then Orton just, I'm not hesitating again. So I wonder if we'll see a steady escalation of that. I think you've mentioned previously, like 2009 Orton, as that kind of ruthless.
I mean, he had there was a segment backstage when he was telling Sami Zayn, sometimes just listen to those voices, because he was asking him, how do you guys do it,
Mm-hmm.
I just hope it does get to that bit where Randy Orton turns. I don't see Cody Rhodes turning heel, because he is like the most popular babyface you have right now. The crowd loves it, so I don't think that would be a good shout. Especially, I don't think Triple H would put him in the Randy Orton turning heel, and people will still love him.
I saw an interview with Orton fairly recently where he was talking about his song. I don't know if you've seen this, where he was saying, I was literally this close to going to the office and saying, please change my music, I'm bored of it. But then he went to Europe and everyone was singing it, and he was like, well, if they're all going to sing, then what can you do? But maybe if he did turn heel, he'd be like, yeah, okay, now I'm having new music, and you don't get to sing to me anymore. The last thing I have to say about the match itself is, well, first of all, I thought they did really well when the announce table just broke. The announce table just flat out collapsed on them. You could tell it wasn't planned. That I think was the table that Drew was supposed to powerbomb Cody through. I thought they handled it as well as they could have, right? Well, better get another table and just do the spot.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't feed quite as well into the ending of the match. And I saw some discussions online about, well, hold on, that's a disqualification. That's a DQ, right? But then the way they announced the title match, I don't know if you caught Mark Nash saying this, but he said the only way to win is by pinfall or submission. He didn't flat out say this is a no DQ match, which I think would have helped, but he said the only way to win is pinfall or submission. And I just wish they'd kind of made that clearer going in,
Yeah.
that then there would have been fewer questions, I guess, about the DQ or not. But yeah, I thought it was a good match. Wouldn't have been a title change I would have made, as you've said. We wanted Drew to keep it, but we are where we are.
Yeah.
So is there anything else from SmackDown that you want to touch on?
As we were talking about Rhea Ripley and Jade Cargill building that momentum to get to, if they were to do a main event WrestleMania, I think the segment they had on SmackDown was great. I think it was fire. It was literally ego versus ego, my muscles are bigger than you, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Jade Cargill was just getting in her face saying, I do respect you. And then she did the left hand shake. I think Rhea handled it well as well. She's given it back. But I think I just prefer Rhea Ripley from before to when she was mommy in the Judgment Day, because she was like literally intimidating. But I think in this case, Jade does look a bit more intimidating.
First of all, I agree that their segment was really, I think, perfect actually for this stage. We're still 5 weeks away from WrestleMania. What you don't want, I guess, at this time of year is for a feud to get to boiling point now.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, where do we go for the next 5 weeks? I thought this was a really, really strong start. I loved the touch of, yeah, your muscles are bigger actually when I look at you, but you're all show. You're like, you're aesthetically pleasing, I think was the words that Rhea said, where she basically was saying, well, my muscles are because I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
And I really, I really like that direction, because they're both like ripped to shreds, both of them, And I take your point actually about, missing maybe the more intimidating Rhea of old. I think that as much as I have loved Rhea and Io being a tag team, as much as I've hated the name Rio, but the tag team itself I've really enjoyed. But it has been very smiley.
Yes, yeah.
And yeah, Rhea perhaps needs to find that intensity again, but they have weeks. And I think what I want to see, and I almost can't believe I'm saying it, because like Io's my number one. I think I love Io Sky. I think I want to see Jade Cargill kill Io Sky to get at Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
I want Jade Cargill to go to Raw. Now that they're both on SmackDown, Jade and Rhea won't be on Raw. I want Jade to turn up and murder Io Sky, because Io's so sympathetic. She would sell it, she would take it, and then you would see Rhea go, I beg your pardon, like, what do you think you're doing?
Yeah.
Because she was wearing a hairpin, I think Rhea was, with Io written on it. So I think there's definitely room to grow for this Rhea and Jade feud as we move towards WrestleMania.
That's a good idea. That is a good idea to have Io kind of involved, but then we want Io to have a match in WrestleMania. If she's so involved in this, then where does she go for WrestleMania?
It becomes very difficult, doesn't it? I want to see Io versus Asuka, I think, at WrestleMania. If we're not going to have tag team carnage, which we keep calling for, which it doesn't seem to be materializing just yet in the women's division, then yeah, give me Io versus Asuka with Kairi in the middle. Yeah, that would be fun.
That would be great, actually. Yeah.
Just looking at what else happened on SmackDown and talking about tag teams, actually, I have some thoughts on the men's tag team division on SmackDown, but do you have any thoughts on the brand new team of Damian Priest and R-Truth becoming number one contenders?
So as soon as I saw that segment backstage where saying you guys are in the match, I knew straight away they're going to win.
There's your winners, right?
I knew it straight away. The match itself was entertaining. I'll say it was entertaining. was actually a good match. I
Mm.
did enjoy it. And I do enjoy because when it was Judgment Day and it was Damien Priest was being really serious in his, in the pack, and then R-Truth used to come backstage and pretend he's in Judgment Day. I found that really funny. That was hilarious. And Damien Priest's reaction to that was actually even more funny because he was like kind of had a soft corner for him, started growing that very fond of him. So having that tag team now, I think they need it. I think they need someone like that in the tag division right now.
They they do, and you're right. And I like Damian Priest and R-Truth as a team, but I hated it. Didn't hate the match.
Yeah.
I think it just it kind of put into really sharp focus for me how poorly that men's tag scene on SmackDown has been booked. The Wyatts were over; they got reactions. So did the MFT interference that got reactions from the crowd because they've been booked consistently and they've been used. And I don't think the Wyatt Six are a great tag team, but they're over
Yeah.
because they've been used. But all of the other tag teams, it was just like the match was happening in a library. There was hardly anything to it, which was such a shame because Fraxium are up there as one of the best teams in the world when they're given a chance
Yeah.
to do what they can do. I thought the Gazas looked great as well, but this was all just like, yeah, get out of the way because we've got new toys now. We've got Damian Priest and R-Truth, and I just thought it was a real shame that that's how bad the men's tag division has got. Is they've gone, we'll get a thrown together team. That being said, like you say, Damian Priest and R-Truth as a combo, I do like. I think Damian Priest without R-Truth is a little bit bland, dare I say, a little
Don't know
bit
what to do
boring.
with him, so it's kind of like
Right.
put him in the tag division with R-Truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that this could be just what they both need. I just wish it wasn't in such circumstances with the men's tag division being so on his ass.
Yeah.
And it makes me think that they're not going to do anything with any of those other teams. They'll have Priest and Truth against MFTs maybe for the titles at WrestleMania, if that even gets on the main card. I wouldn't.
I don't really like the sounds of that though. So,
It
it's
no, it
like
doesn't.
having them as a team, but having them going for the belts, I just don't see that happening.
With Priest and Truth.
Yeah. So them
Mm.
going after the MFTs, I think they'll have to do something to kind of build this tag division up because, as you said, there's great tag teams, but it's just there's no storyline. There's no opportunities given. It's just like they made this match, like you said. And as soon as I saw that segment, I was like, all right, so I know what's happening in this match. Everyone's just going to play around until Damien and R-Truth come.
Right. And the rest of the teams themselves for the last God knows how many weeks, all they've been doing is like standing around the box or having these comedy backstage skits. And I was watching the show, as I often do with my wife. Every time a new tag team came out at the beginning, she went, "Oh, are these guys new?" And I was like, no, they're not. They've just been used really, really badly. They just haven't been in the ring. Motor City Machine Guns, like trying to explain to my wife that this is historically one of the greatest tag teams that have inspired teams like Fraxium. And there's just crickets when they're in the ring. They don't have any personality backstage. I find their segments backstage incredibly cringe.
Yeah.
It seems like they might be teasing that they're going to split because one of them's going to go off with Johnny Gargano, maybe.
Yeah.
What a mess.
Yeah, like you said, it is very cringe. The backstage segments is just. I like Johnny Gargo's sleeping around. That's just funny, but the rest of it, I
Yeah.
just don't see them doing much.
No, he's the only bright spot, I think, and I loved that they fed him to Obafemi as soon as he came out, as soon as he woke up and came out to the ring. I was like, here comes Oba. You wait, here he comes, and Oba just goes from strength to strength. But I'm sure we'll get back to him when we go on to Raw. The only other thing I guess from SmackDown is Danhausen and The Miz partners.
Who's gonna be
as soon as they appeared on screen together, I was like, okay, I'm intrigued. I'll watch this and see where it goes.
I've got different opinions about Badass because I haven't seen him I don't know if does he wrestle? I have really haven't seen him much before. So, but
Right.
his segments are funny. He does bring a little, comedy to it, cursing everybody, and then something like that happens. And it's, now with Miz, like you said, it does get a bit funny actually.
It's that variety that we crave, isn't it?
Yeah,
You've got to have a bit of light to go with all the serious stuff that we see elsewhere on the card. And I think the best comedy comes from straight man, funny man. That dynamic really, really works. Like, I don't know why they've just popped into my head, but Team Hell No, like Kane and Daniel Bryan having that kind of odd couple relationship. I'm excited to see where Danhausen and Miz end up. It'll be interesting to see if and when he does get in the ring, how that translates. Shall we move on to Monday Night Raw?
yeah, let's do it.
So the show opened with Adam Pearce calling out Seth Rollins. This was not as good as last week. Wasn't helped by the fact, they do the big panning crane shots over the crowd at the beginning of the show. And my wife paused it and she went, "Look, there's 4 masked men waiting there on the. They're literally lining up, waiting to come out." So it wasn't a surprise to see them. And out they came, and that whole segment I thought was a well. You tell me your thoughts first, and I'll
I think
chip
we'll
in
both be on the
afterwards.
same page. That segment was shit. I mean, you got Seth Rollins. Come on, he's a big star. Why would you do something so stupid like that? I have no idea the creative idea behind this. There's no creativity. Minions. Because like Logan Paul called them your
Minions,
masked minions.
yeah,
Oh,
and
just
uh,
awful.
and he's supposed to be a babyface now, right? Rollins making this heroic comeback, but a babyface doesn't have like 20 guys surrounding him. And the bit with them all going like "Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa," in the ring. And I've made my thoughts about Adam Pearce very clear on this podcast in a previous episode. I'm not his biggest fan, to put it mildly, but I've never felt more on the same page as Adam Pearce as when he looked dead-eyed at Seth Rollins and just said, "I didn't need any of that." And I was like, yes, Adam Pearce, neither did I. We did not need any of that nonsense. And where do they go with it? Like, this isn't the kind of mask group that's going to suddenly unmask and you've got all these stars. There's too many of them for a start. And as you've said, Sanjay, it's just, what's the point? Just unnecessary. I get why they did it at the chamber,
Yeah.
having the different masked men. Even last week, when they used the sort of masked men to draw the Vision away so he could attack Heyman, fine. But if you're now going to be back of, right, here I am, I'm Seth Rollins and I'm back, okay, you don't need the mask stuff anymore then. Like,
Yeah.
huh? Anyway, rubbish.
We always had our opinion about the mask. When someone makes a return, it's like, why they always have to come with the hoodie and then you reveal it.
Always,
Why?
yeah.
You don't need to do that. It's done millions
And
of times now.
it was Austin Theory in particular coming out and talking about these people hiding behind a mask. And I'm thinking, how many weeks ago was it, Austin Theory, that you pulled off a mask?
Yeah.
Having been, that person. But yeah, they need to screw up that idea, I think, and refresh things creatively a little bit. Heyman's out indefinitely. That's an interesting twist. I think it's just telling that everyone else got injured, so he thought, well, I don't want to hang around with the mid-card version of the Vision. I'll skip out and see Brock at Mania or something. I don't know. The women's division, we had a big, long section for that Intercontinental title gauntlet match. We saw Io and Lyra starting off. Io got the win in quite a competitive match between those two. And then we got Raquel Rodriguez, who Io managed to beat after Liv Morgan interfered. Stephanie ran in. We'll maybe get back to those two in a little bit. Raquel, of course, beats up Io Sky straight after losing to her. And then in creeps Ivy Nile to get a very cheap pin. I don't think she even hit a move on Io Sky. I think she just literally slid in, pinned her. And then, of course, we've got Bayley versus Ivy Nile. Bayley wins. Bayley versus Asuka. Did you see Bailey's suicide dive to Asuka before that part of the match even began. Woof. So Bailey dives out of the ring. I thought initially when it happened that it was about the way that Bailey landed on Asuka on the floor, because Asuka immediately was rolling away, holding her face. But then they showed the replay. Bailey just chinned her with her elbow before the dive was even complete. And yeah, I think that set the tone for what I thought was a really great final stretch of that match, because
Yeah.
Asuka, I think it's fair to say, she was not holding back with her strikes to Bailey after that. But Bailey got it done. She's the new number one contender. I've talked a lot all about that waffle of the match. We'll talk more about Bailey's title shot afterwards. But what did you make of the gauntlet match, Sanjay? It took up a huge chunk of Raw, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I did enjoy it actually. I thought it was actually good matches, mixture of them. I think the first match was a bit slow. I just think it was just a little bit drag for a first match, because in the gauntlet you want to see, all right, who's going to win this match and then who's coming next. It's kind of that surprise element. But it was a good match though. I did enjoy it, but I just thought it was a little bit drag the first match, and it's probably because Lyra. I'm not too keen on Lyra.
Mm.
It's like hit and miss with Lyra. I think sometimes she does pull off a good match, but then most of the times it feels forced or dragged a bit, especially with the Bailey mix.
I really like Lyra Valkyria. And when I saw that they were starting off with Lyra and Io, I was like rubbing my hands together, being like, this is going to be great. And it wasn't. I don't think it was bad. It wasn't badly worked, but slow, I think, is the word you used. And I would definitely agree. It just seemed like, I don't know, some wrestlers have instant chemistry with one another in the ring. Like you look at Punk and Balor that we've waxed lyrical about the last few weeks, instant physical chemistry with each other to make it look like they've been wrestling each other for years. And sometimes wrestlers don't quite click immediately. And I think that's what I was reading from Io and Lyra, which was such a shame, because I think on their best day, that's a great match that I'd love to see again. But yeah, I think that Io and Raquel, they hit really hard. The right decision, I think, to have Liv inadvertently cost Raquel again. So how many times is that going to happen before Raquel realizes that maybe she's being held down
Yeah.
a little bit by Liv? I kind of wanted more physicality from Stephanie when she ran out and her and Liv had the little brawl. I know it was basically just a means to an end to like clear her away from the ring, basically, but I wanted a little bit more oomph,
Yeah.
I guess, behind that. But yeah, Bailey now has a title match with AJ Lee, which, as we talked last week about AJ as the new champion and how fresh this feels for lots of potential avenues that they can go down, and Bailey's a great one. When she won the gauntlet, I was really happy, and I said, this is a make good for her missing WrestleMania last year. This is like, here she comes. And then they announced that the title match with AJ Lee is actually going to happen next week on Raw. So I was like, oh, okay. And later on in the show, Bailey was interviewed backstage and was like, yeah, next week. And I thought, she's pretending to be excited. And I wonder whether part of her was a bit like, oh, I wanted a Mania match.
Yeah.
But what do you reckon to AJ Lee versus Bailey for the Intercontinental title next week?
I think it'll be a great match. I mean, that's one of the opponents that we did say we gave a list of people that we would like to see AJ Lee wrestle with, because obviously the absence for the amount of time she's been away. But I do think the booking of AJ Lee is going to be like a couple of matches and then she'll probably finally retire. It's just going to be like, like we had with AJ Styles having a few great matches before he retired. So
Sorry, you said AJ Lee retire, and you can't say the word retire right now without me thinking of Gunther, which was quite the vision of me just imagining Gunther tapping out AJ Lee. I don't think that's going to happen, nor should it. But yeah, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, so I just think it'll be a few more matches until WrestleMania, and I think WrestleMania is probably where she will give the title to whoever the opponent will be.
I think Becky Lynch was scheduled to be on Raw, but she was like genuinely unwell. I believe is what I've
Tweeting through the
heard.
match, wasn't she?
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
I haven't seen this.
The announcers were kept on saying, "Oh, Becky Lynch has just said this and that." So,
In her usual Trump fashion.
yeah.
Do you think that she does she get involved next week and cost? I don't see her costing AJ Lee. Does she cost Bailey in a like, no, this is mine, back off way? Because we could then see Bailey. We always go to triple threats. We always end up at triple threats. But I want to see Bailey at Mania again. I felt so
Yeah.
bad for her last year. And it made sense last year because they weren't really doing anything with her. So it made sense, but it was just a shame. So it'd be nice to see her do something. Well, women's tag team, we're back there again. Get the tag teams, get the tag teams rolling. You mentioned this to me before we started recording, Sanjay, so I'm thinking this is almost certainly your highlight of Monday Night Raw. We got a down the barrel of the camera promo from Natty, and then a run-in from your favourite and mine, Maxime Dupree. We're still going with this. What the hell are they doing? What they're surely not stupid enough to think that they can stretch this all the way to Mania. Surely not.
And I hope it's not a match at WrestleMania. You can even hear it from the crowd. No one's bothered. Like normally when there's someone cutting a promo and then they get interrupted or there's the crowd cheers or they boos, they do something.
Yeah.
Everyone's just like, I don't care,
No.
just get it out
Not.
my face.
Yeah. And the what chants were incredibly loud for Natty, and then you have Penta later in the show speaking Spanish, a mixture of Spanish and English. He didn't get whatted at all because his promo was just pure fire and passion, and the crowd, even if they didn't understand what he was saying, were like, yes.
Yeah.
and this was everything that wasn't. This was poor again. I just kill the storyline and move on. And Natty came out, and we've just obviously spent a bit of time talking about that gauntlet match. Natty came out and said, I can't believe I wasn't in that gauntlet match. And if this story was worth telling, to be frank, you'd be thinking, oh God, yes, she wasn't in the match. Oh, she's going to be mad now, or she's going to make them pay now. But it was just like, I genuinely forgot about her. I don't think about her. And then here she comes. It went, I wasn't in the gauntlet match. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, see you next week, I guess. So yeah, I'm hoping they put the final nail in this coffin in the next week or two. Like have some sort of stipulation match.
Just settle in next week. Just do a little match. 30-second squash, whoever you want to win, whatever. They just don't bring them back on the show until we're ready for something better.
Oh dear. One of these weeks we won't mention their names, but it's not showing any sign of slowing down anytime soon. Our friend Danhausen was back on the show cursing El Grande Americano this week, and cursed him so much he disappeared, and we got Kaiser instead. I thought that was a cute touch. I wasn't that high on the match, which I feel bad for saying, but I thought Penta's promo was great. I thought, as I previously said, like fire in that promo, and then the match was well worked, but I didn't really care about it.
Yeah.
There was no danger of a title change. I loved the finish. I thought that springboard destroyer, amazing, great. And to be honest, glad I looked up from my phone at the right point to see that move, because that was actually the only point on Raw that I just watched this evening that I literally drifted and was doing something on my phone and was like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be watching the show. I think maybe I was disappointed because I want to see Penta and Chad Gable.
Yeah.
That would have been a much, much more interesting proposition, which I'm sure we'll get down the road. Danhausen came out and cut a promo. I mean, he didn't do anything else.
Just gave out free T-shirts.
He gave out free T-shirts, and I'm glad Michael Cole called this, actually. Did you notice that the first T-shirts he threw kind of all went in a giant ball to like one part of the crowd? So I hope there wasn't too much of a fight for those T-shirts. The reason I bring it up is that I thought it was nice to hear that the crowd really kind of responded well to him before he
Yeah.
said anything. Like, that was nice, because obviously the only other time we've seen him in the ring was Elimination Chamber, when the crowd was a bit like, huh? That's it?
Yeah.
So is there any other highlights from Raw that you want to...
Well, finally we got Finn Balor coming out of the Judgment Day. So hopefully he gets his little bit of a push, I'll say.
What did you think of the segment?
I think it was great. I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like Finn Balor still trying to say, we're family, I've done it wrong, but then he just pulled it off. Maybe your dad was right.
Spoiled little prick, I think he called him. Yeah, excellent stuff. I think the right call as well to have JD turn and side very much with Dom and the rest of the Judgment Day. That puts Finn Balor like all on his own, which I think for this babyface turn and run to really take off, that's exactly what he needs. And that's exactly what Finn Balor has said. Like, for weeks now, I'm doing it on my own. I'm doing it on my own. So it would have been a strange move to have JD splinter off with him. I just love every time Dom's a coward. Every time he's a coward, it makes me smile and it makes me laugh. Like backstage, before they came out and Dom was going, no, I'm going to go out there, and Liv goes, would you want us to come with you? And he's, yes, I do. There's no single part of Dom's DNA is wired for like integrity. It's just like, no, we're all going. Come on, we're all going. Bring the chair, bring the hammer. We're all going. That probably does get on the Mania card, in my view. A Finn and Dom grudge match, I think, should be really, really good. Loved the beatdown. I loved how much they all laid in to that beatdown.
The hammer in the shoe, and he did the 619.
When he was first doing it, because he wasn't wearing wrestling boots. Previously, he's like tucked them into the taller part of the boot really easily, but he was only wearing like sneakers or whatever. So he was kind of faffing around with it for a little bit. And I thought, Dom, what are you doing? And then it all made sense with the loaded 619. And then how he didn't break his own ribs on that chair with that frog splash, I'll never know. But yeah, I thought that was really good, and the right time for Finn to go off and become a babyface again, and hopefully stay around that upper mid card, maybe even to get a push beyond at some point. Obafemi and Rusev, we talked about it last week as being really excited about what this match was going to deliver, and it was Obafemi's most competitive match. I think. It's difficult, isn't it? Because he had a big match with Cody on Cena's last show. But I think that kind of exists in a parallel universe almost. So talking in terms of since he's been properly called up, if you like, we've seen squash week after week with Obafemi. And I've loved every second of it. But this was a little bit of real competition. He had to find something for this. He still beat him fairly quickly. But I think it was nice that they gave Rusev a little bit more.
I loved it. I think we finally got, like you said, not a squash match, but some sort of competition. Because then Rusev, he's supposed to be one of those powerhouse as well. So I'll say he was booked in a way where it's like he's not going to be the guy who's going to be intimidated by Oba, but he gave a little bit of a tough competition, even for, few minutes. So.
Yeah.
But still, what a great match. It was good.
Yeah, love every time Oba's on the screen. The crowd seemed to be really connecting with him. His music is getting a big pop. And yeah, I do have to say there was some of the the loudest spot calling I've ever seen happened in this match. I don't know if you caught it, but there was a point towards the end of the match where Rusev had been kicking Oba again and again and again. And then Rusev went, grab me. Grabbed him. It was just like,
Oh,
oh, of course, they've got to call spots in the ring, and like you can't. That's the nature of the beast. But I rewound it like 2 or 3 times, but it was just so blatant. Like John Cena,
just exactly. I literally just said he's picked that from John Cena, one of his favorite
yeah,
writers, because John Cena's
yeah,
always calling it so loud, and he's like, "Hit me one more
he,
time." Is that turnbuckle?
yeah. Maybe we've been missing a bit of spot calling since Cena retired, and
Yeah.
now Rusev can take up the mantle, yelling the next move that's coming to his opponent. Just a little nugget of something. I was really intrigued by Kofi and Javon Evans.
Good, yeah.
Kofi comes up to Javon and apologizes to him for the way that he and Xavier acted, and basically pitched Javon Evans joining the New Day, which I know we talked about it a little, the three of us did last week. I don't necessarily see Javon joining the New Day, but I like that they're not just leaving that Javon Kofi match as a one and done. They're going to, because Javon's got to do something. The scene that played before Kofi came along was Javon going, "Oh, cool, so I've got a week off." I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, you can think of something better for that scene to be. Um, but yeah, I'm intrigued as to where this goes with Javon and the New Day.
I think it'll be good for him to be around Kofi Kingston. Just get a lot of knowledge from him. Do some sort of work where you kind of show like, I'm going to show you how it's done, kid, and then they could have a big feud. In the end of it, you say, you know what, I'm better than you, whatever. Which there could be a lot with Kofi Kingston, so I like they put them together. He did say it as well,
Yeah.
that he sees a younger version of himself. So
Yes. Yeah. He
they
said it.
should do
He
that.
said, "I
Yeah.
see a lot of myself in you." I think the New Day. We've talked earlier in just in this show about Cena having one of the best heel turns ever, followed by one of the worst heel runs. And I think you can put the New Day in that same bracket because the way they turned on Big E, like way back at
Yeah.
this point, I thought was incredible. Like, incredible heel turn. Better in my eyes than the Cena heel turn. And then they've just done absolutely nothing with them to the point where the New Day as heels now are just there. They are just part of the furniture, and they struggle to get on TV. If they're lucky, they certainly don't get in the ring. Apart from last week, obviously with the Javon Evans match. So I'd almost like to see this as a way of getting New Day back on the babyface side of things. Have maybe Grayson Waller not be happy that Kofi kicked him out of the room so we could have a chat, and
Yeah.
have Grayson Waller beat up Javon, and have the New Day go no, or have even just Kofi if Xavier Bowenkamp is injured, have Kofi team up with Javon for a little while. I think you're absolutely right with that amount of veteran experience that Kofi Kingston has.
Yeah.
Then yeah, it seems like a really really good pairing to me.
I think it's just unfortunate how we were saying about the tag team division for the men's, the booking has just been it's just awkward. You got all these teams, but it's just this, you're not doing anything with them.
That's it, isn't it? It's not even bad booking. It's just no booking.
Yeah.
This is where we don't book them. Tag teams now. We've got them. We've got them back there, but we're not going to use them. We're too busy with We're too busy with Natty and Maxine to book a tag
Giving
team
so much
match.
airtime to that.
They certainly are. It's an easy route for us to go down. Maybe route one. But yeah, like they've done nothing with tag teams on the men's side of things. And it's ridiculous because they've done so much with the women's tag teams
Yeah.
this year. It's like you can have both. You can do both. But then, as I said, I think a few weeks back, I think the issue could be solved by just unifying the men's tag titles at this point, because that's what they've got with the women's is a tag division that is like a movable feast. So if you don't have room for the tag stuff on Raw, you're going to get some tag stuff on SmackDown, or vice versa. I think just do that with the men's. Put all of these tag teams, have them be floating tag teams. You can make it a rule or whatever about tag teams not being tied to a roster, and yeah, revitalize this tag division. I mean, when I think about, when I first became a wrestling fan, tag team wrestling that I think taught me to love pro wrestling.
Yeah.
I think it's, that those, the heel team cutting off the babyface team and the babyface team getting the hot tag. Like it's the simplest thing. And I think even nowadays, the loudest crowd reactions we hear are for hot tags in tag team matches. So it just seems so bizarre to me that they seem so averse to actually booking the things.
That could be something that they do for WrestleMania, where you got MFT versus the Usos. The winner takes, both belts and unifies the
Wow.
tags.
Well, I think that's a great idea.
But then they'll have to do something about the Wyatt Six, because just MFT Wyatt Six has
Yeah,
been going on forever now.
I thought it was done when MFT won the tag titles. I thought, okay, so that's been a fine story, but long, and now it's done. But no, because there's still lantern stuff going on. Then I thought it was over when Howdy and Solo had their one-on-one match, and Howdy won. So okay, he won. He's got the lantern back.
Yeah.
Brilliant. We're done. Oh no, here they come, and now the MFTs still have that bloody lantern. And you just say, well, what is the end point for that feud? I think you're right. It needs to end, because when we talked about Truth and Priest potentially having a title match with MFT, both of us were a bit like, okay, I guess.
Yeah.
But Solo and the MFTs versus the Usos is a huge match that frankly they don't deserve to have on their plate, given how poorly they've booked the tag divisions. But yeah, hopefully they can get there. But speaking of the Usos, they were heavily involved, both at the rubbish bit at the beginning that we don't even need to go back to, but they were heavily involved in a very, very intense ending. And this got intense out of nowhere, considering that we knew that Roman wasn't going to be on the show. CM Punk came out and seemed to spend about 10 minutes signing autographs and just jollying it up with the crowd. And I was thinking, is this going to be the main event segment? Because he could have, storyline wise, he could have just done that for 10 minutes, got on the mic and said, is it great to be alive in Seattle or what? And then said, yeah, I did that because I'm here, Roman. See you later. And mic drop and gone. Like, they could have gone down that route, but boy, they did not go down that light-hearted route. They had Punk say that he was thinking people would be upset about his line about Seeker last week. But Roman has never respected him. But he said, yeah, I'm going to force Roman to respect the position I hold. And I really liked the way this turned. Because then Punk quite rightly said, this title that I've got round my waist was created because of how Roman did not want to defend his titles. It was literally created because of Roman's part-time status, if you like. And so he said he leveled up the title, leveled up the competition. But then he said, last week, unfortunately, I lowered myself to Roman's level. And before he could get any further, out come the Usos. Jay is doing his very best acting face. I thought Jay was not very good in this segment. Says it's nothing to do with Roman and everything to do with respect. Jimmy Uso, who I thought was actually really good in this segment out of the two of them, said he respects Punk because of his character, but says as the voice of the voiceless, you disrespected our uncle who has no voice. And I thought that was really nice.
Great.
A nicely written and delivered line. Again and again and again, they demand an apology. Punk says that Jimmy's right. Seeker doesn't have a voice. He tells a nice story about, like, you talked earlier about Javon maybe sitting under Kofi's learning tree. Well, Punk talked at some length about sitting under the Wild Samoans learning tree back in the day, and says, you believe that they're listening now, you believe that they can see me now, so they can see and hear that I respect them. But he doesn't respect Roman Reigns. He calls him many, many things, but the one I've written down here is he called him a plastic politician, which I loved. I got a pop from that. Jay then snaps and gets even angrier and demands an apology. And Punk shakes their hand and apologizes. But obviously doing the classic WWE thing, like, I apologize not. he turns it into, I apologize that Roman treated you like garbage for years. He's treated this whole family like garbage. He's sorry that Roman has tricked everyone into thinking that he gives a single damn about anybody but himself. Because if he did give a damn about any of these people, if he did give a damn about the WWE, I'd be here now talking to him and not to his young boys. At which point, Jay explodes into a ball of anger. Jimmy punches Punk, and the show goes off the air. I've talked quite a lot there, just recapping what happened. But Sanjay, I thought this was great. What were your thoughts on this ending segment?
So I'm going to use the word that you hate, cinema.
Okay.
I thought this was just
Fair
absolute
enough.
cinema. It was just
Yeah.
amazing. And like you said, when it happened with CM Punk signing autographs, and he kept on asking, "Are we on? How many minutes? 5 minutes? 4 minutes?" And I was thinking,
Yeah.
is this supposed to be it? This doesn't
Yeah.
seem right.
Right.
And then you come back from a commercial, and he's still there, and the song is still playing, and it's really awkward to watch like that, because I don't know if you've noticed, but for the last few weeks on Raw, it's just been a very strange blackout, and then commercials after, very strange, like cut mid through segments, through entrance to halfway in the match.
And then they cut and they come back and nothing's changed. I thought it was especially true of the beginning segment where you had the Usos come out and make the save,
Yeah.
and then they went, "Oh, we're going to run it back."
Yeah.
They started eating, and I turned and said to my wife, "Well, at least this is happening during the ad break." And then they went to the ad break, and I thought, "Oh, when they come back, the Usos will have gone, and we'll be moving on to the next thing." But no, the adverts came back, and there were the Usos still yeeting it up all the way up the ramp, and then it seemed to cut again. It's weird at the moment. I don't quite know what's going on at all. But anyway, back to your thoughts on
that scene.
Punk.
Like you said, I would have thought probably it would be something, because they did say earlier, maybe we do need to speak to Punk. So we knew the Usos were going to come out, but I thought it would be in terms of, you said something, apologize, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't know it was going to be to a extent where CM Punk would drop such a great promo, just talking about his history with the Samoan dynamic. And then Roman Reigns, still saying everything you want, and still calling Roman Reigns all those names. And it was just great to see. And I really liked the way Jimmy Uso did. I think he was so much better than Jay at this time. Yes, definitely. Because before as well, it was always been like the big brother. He's the sensible guy. He knows. And the way he says his lines is like great. It's like he's not overacting, or he doesn't look like, someone needs to kind of tell him, chill out a bit. But he was just
Right.
to the point. And then Jay is just being Jay. But I do like Jay Uso more like this than he is the funny guy, just run it back sort of thing.
It's something, I guess. Something is not much of an elevation, but
I just thought, is this something that they're going to take back to the OG bloodline? Is this the way it's going to be? Roman comes back with the Usos, and then you got Sami Zayn kind of backstage flipping bottles every week. So is he going to get angry and say, you know what, I'm Sami Uso again. Let's do this again or something.
Yeah. Wow, that would be quite the turn up for the books. We didn't really touch on Sami at all, did we? But maybe we touch more on him next week, because I think he has been maybe more interesting in the last couple of weeks than he has been for months, Sami Zayn. But yeah, I think to your point about the sort of OG bloodline with the Usos perhaps properly realigning with Roman, I think that I could see it happening. I think it's an unfortunate symptom of the fact that Roman quite simply is not there every week. So they have to have something for Punk to bounce off. But if they do go back, then how do you address the things that Punk said, which were true, about how Roman treated them for years, about how Roman, of all people, the Usos are out here demanding apologies. Roman has never apologized for being the monster that he became. He even brought up Punk that Roman had talked about Dusty Rhodes in a disrespectful way. And where was the clamour for Roman to apologize then? Why am I being asked to apologize now? And what I thought was an especially nice touch is that the way Punk was talking before the Usos music hit, and I raised the level, I upped the level with everybody and everything in this place. But last week I lowered myself to Roman's level. I think you can argue that Punk was about to apologize.
Yeah.
Whether the Usos were there or not, I think Punk was working his way as a babyface with integrity who can say, I don't like that I went there and I'm sorry. But the Usos came out and like ruined it almost, like story wise. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's got a lot of a lot of intrigue. And I think I'm right in saying as I look at my sort of preview notes that Roman is scheduled to appear next week. So we're gonna just have another Punk Roman must see segment, I think. And any involvement from the Usos will be interesting. I think the difficulty is we've just been talking about Usos and MFT potentially for tag titles in some form. The more the Usos get involved in this main event scene as like supporting artists, if you like, to this main event, I think the harder it's going to be for them to also be the tag team champions. And I thought it was telling that we did not see the tag team titles at all this week.
I was just about to say I'm disappointed because they should have came down with the belts.
Yeah, I get that they didn't come out at the beginning of the show because they were doing a run-in. So it's like, oh crap, we've got to go and get there, and we've got to go and get there and help LA Knight, who we famously get along really well with. Huh? But yeah, I kind of explained that away as oh they were in a rush, but yeah, they should have come out for that main event segment, and then they could have said to Pan, look, we're champions too. You've got to respect us.
Yeah,
you know, but. Yeah, strangely conspicuous by their absence were those title belts. One last thing, Sanjay, I'll ask you. Next week on Raw, they're in San Antonio, Texas, I think, and next week is March the 16th, which, when you write it out the American way, the wrong way, sorry to my American wife, but you write the American date as 3/16, and they're in Texas. Is that glass going to smash? Are we going to see Steve Austin, do you think?
I would love to see him. And I'd love to see him come out to Brock Lesnar, and that's just a dream.
Thank you. I had the same thing in my head because Brock Lesnar thing, isn't it? Is this year at least is I'm basically the main event of WrestleMania. Who's going to come and challenge me? I'd love it if Austin came out because Austin and Brock have some history, right?
Yeah, they got unfinished business.
Have they interacted, Austin and Brock,
They have.
since the first WrestleMania match Brock and Goldberg had?
Yeah.
Because Austin was the special ref, and it was famously booed out of the city because everyone knew Brock and Goldberg were both leaving. I remember, I don't know if you remember watching that WrestleMania, but that was maybe one of the first times where I just sat there with my mouth agape, like, what am I witnessing? Because I wasn't, as into the backstage machinations of things. So to my young eyes at that point, I was just like, why are they booing this? Because I thought this was a great match.
I had no idea Brock Lesnar was leaving. I had no idea Goldberg was leaving. I was like, this is an awesome match. You got two
Right?
egos, and then you got Stone Cold in the mix. Like, I think he saved the crowd, Stone Cold, in that match.
Well, it was the only thing about it. You had the commentators talking. I think I remember JR talking at length and talking about how, oh yeah, go and play football, Brock. Go like, yeah, these two don't. The crowd don't like them because they don't want to be here. So off your trot, boys. Have Austin and Brock interacted since that day on camera? I don't know if they have.
They haven't. He has been on his show, the Broken Skull podcast, which was only about 2016, I think. But they even spoke about it on the podcast, saying there was supposed to be a match between them two.
Between Austin and Brock?
Austin and Brock.
Oh my God, this is when Austin took his ball and went home, right?
Exactly at that point.
I'd totally forgotten because, yeah, Austin was asked to lose to Brock and he didn't want to do the job. And it wasn't like he didn't want to do the job at all, but I believe it was a random King of the Ring qualifier or
Yeah.
some
It
less
would have been a very
important
poor
match.
booking.
It would have been, yeah, it would have been. But yeah, God, I'd totally forgotten that. So these two have huge history
They do.
together. So yeah, I'd love to see Stone Cold come out and cut a bit of a promo on Brock,
Yeah.
because if we don't have Heyman, right? Heyman is still injured storyline wise. I think whatever you think of Brock, you can't say that he's a good promo on his own. So I think he's going to need someone there to bounce off. And yeah, Austin could be a great opportunity to get an awesome moment. If we don't see that now, Sanjay, I'm going to be disappointed. So they're also giving us El Grande Americano versus El Grande Americano next week. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I thought that would be a WrestleMania mask versus mask match, and then
right, that's kind of what we touched on before, wasn't it? But yeah, maybe they're just throwing this one away and they'll chuck it on AAA or
well, he
something.
is still cursed.
This is true. This is true. Who knows whether he's even been found yet? Because that was the last time we saw Chad Gable, was him getting cursed. I do notice as well that the crowd are starting to bite when Danhausen starts setting up to curse someone. You
Yeah,
can hear the crowd going, "You are cursed."
yeah.
So there is hope for Danhausen yet. We've covered a lot this
Oh,
week, haven't
yeah.
we? We've basically been through everything that happened on Raw, which we don't necessarily always do. Of course, because there's just the two of us, we don't have a quiz this week, so I'm afraid I will just have to remain your undisputed champion. Sorry about that. But it does mean that we got to spend a little bit more time sort of talking about this week's Monday Night Raw. But that brings us to the end of another episode of the Smark-Casual Wrestling Podcast. Thank you for listening. Please keep searching for us. Please subscribe to us if you find us on TikTok or YouTube. We're going to be appearing on Facebook very soon. Stay tuned for that. And we've also got some bonus content that will be coming your way in the next week or two once I can find time to edit the stuff. But until we see you next week, thank you so much, Sanjay.
Thank you.
And a big thank you for listening.